Mr. Jim Compton is a veteran with 25 years of service in the Navy. He continues to keep his oath to uphold the Constitution, and he has a burning desire for liberty in our lifetime. He is a state coordinator for Restore the Republic and for the National Veterans Committee on Constitutional Affairs. He is first and foremost on the fight against the Real ID here in Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm going to give you an update on Real ID. Could I see a show of hands of those who know what Real ID is all about? Okay, so there's quite a few. A lot of people don't know about it. It's in a way, I say it's tyranny in our state. But I've been walking the halls down at the Capitol for the last 2 years, trying to get our state legislators to pass a statute to say, hey, we're not going to participate in Real ID in Pennsylvania. Naomi Klein, who wrote an article last May prior to the Summer Olympics titled China's All-Seeing Eye, in that article, she explained how the Chinese business entrepreneur contacted a U.S. company named L1 Identity Solutions to buy the rights to use their Face Explorer software. They paid $20,000 for this. The software takes a high-resolution facial picture, the digital facial picture, and converts it into biometric data. His goal was to convert all of their citizens' facial pictures into biometric data and store it in a database, and then be able to identify those individuals at a future time by having an operator of a CCTV camera take their picture when they're in a public place and convert that picture into the biometrics and compare it to the database to find out who the individual is. Today, PennDOT uses that same software to check your identity every time you renew your driver's license or attempt to get a new one. This procedure is one of the benchmarks that states must meet in order to implement Real ID. This process violates our right to privacy and subjects us to identity theft. In the final regulations under the Real ID Act, Homeland Security requires the states to include an individual's biometric data, plus his name, his address, his date of birth, and his Social Security number. With those 4 items, people can play havoc with you. The database would then be shared with other countries, for example, Canada and or Mexico. The Real ID Act was passed back in 2005, but it standardizes each state's driver's license program, essentially converting the driver's license into a national ID card with the Homeland Security logo on it. It also gives the Director of Homeland Security the powers to determine what information is on the card and how it's to be used. The initial use was to enter federal buildings, a nuclear power plant, or to get on an airline. One of the things I don't think they were thinking about, and one of the good deals is that the states can opt out of Real ID. So if they have a federal court and the state's not participating in Real ID, how in the world is the federal government going to get a jury if they don't have a Real ID card? All states were to implement the Real ID Act by 2008, but due to the enormous outcry from citizens and state legislatures who learned about Real ID, the Director of Homeland Security granted extensions to all states until the end of this year. However, 14 states have already passed statutes prohibiting the implementation of Real ID in their states. Virginia was the last one to prohibit Real ID, and their statute reads very, very much like the bills that we have down at Harrisburg in the Senate and the House. Real ID is tied to the Security and Prosperity Partnership of North America, which is also known as the North American Union. In June of 2005, the Security and Prosperity members wrote in their 2005 report to leaders under a title Biometrics and Secure Documentation, they said, "We will devise a single integrated global enrollment program in the North American Trusted Traveler programs within the next 36 months." And that would, when it was supposed to be implemented, would have been within the 36 months. Real ID is that integrated global enrollment program for the U.S. Michael Chertoff, the former Homeland Security Director, was one of the co-signers of that document. Okay, we all know that Lancaster now has CCTV cameras all over. I mean, I think you have 120, and they're going to go up to like 165 or something like that. That's pretty scary in my opinion. Are you aware that the U.S. is among 5 nations worldwide that are surveilling their citizens? They include China, Russia, Singapore, Great Britain, and the U.S. And we're doing it more and more. As I stated, PennDOT is currently converting our pictures to biometric data without citizens knowing that they're doing this. We have a right to be secure in our person, and unless we've done something wrong and there's probable cause, and somebody goes before a judge and says, "I saw him do the dirty deed," and the judge signs a warrant, the government has no authority to take biometric data from us.